Jace Carver stepped off the Starliner and felt the weight of his uniform more than ever before. The war was over, and the cheers of victory still echoed in his mind. Yet here he stood, on the quiet tarmac of the orbital station, waiting for new orders. He had expected parades or speeches, but instead a junior officer handed him a sealed file and said, "Escort duty." Inside, the papers named a young alien noble, Solara of the Marsh Moon, assigned to the interspecies orphanage on Earth. His mission, ensure her safe passage. He frowned. After all he had done leading fleets, defending colonies, now he would be a chaperone for an alien child. Still, he folded the file and secured it in his belt. Duty was duty. He walked toward the enclosed transport shuttle, its hatch hissing open. Inside, the cabin was quiet except for the soft hum of life support. Rows of simple seats faced a central aisle. Jace took a seat near the front and glanced around. No guards, no officers, just a few empty seats and one small figure curled by the window. Solara sat with her knees drawn to her chest, her long silver hair brushing the floor. She wore the pale green robes of her house, a single gem clasp at her neck. Her skin had a faint iridescence that caught the light. Her eyes were large and dark, watchful. Jace cleared his throat. "I'm Captain Carver," he said gently. "I'm your escort." She did not rise. She tilted her head and studied him. After a moment she spoke. Her voice was soft, but the tone carried an age beyond her years. "I know." Jace felt a chill. He sank back in his seat. He was relieved to see no fear in her expression, only curiosity. They launched into the void with a gentle shudder. Jace studied the window view, starfields blinking past, distant worlds drifting by. He tried small talk. He asked about her homeworld. She answered in brief fragments. She said she missed the Marsh Moon's violet skies. She asked if he missed the war. He paused. Then he said, "I miss my friends." Her eyes flicked to him. Her gaze was earnest. Jace realized she was not a spoiled noble. She was just a young soul far from home. Duty and honor had brought him here. Compassion might guide him now. They reached the transfer point at the orbital dock above Earth. Jace helped Solara stand as the hatch opened. The station's corridors smelled of recycled air and polished metal. They walked side by side. She paused at a viewport to watch a freighter approach. Jace placed a hand on her back. She nodded, trusting him. In the central concourse, an officer scanned their papers. He frowned at Solara's file and scowled. Jace stepped forward, authority in his stance. The officer shrugged and waved him on. Solara gave Jace a small smile. He returned it with a nod. They boarded the final shuttle to Earth's surface. Through the window Jace watched storms swirl over the planet. Lightning danced behind clouds. He felt a sudden tug of nostalgia. He had defended this planet, lost friends for it. Now he would protect this girl. When they landed at the orphanage complex, they were met by soft lights and children of many species. The air smelled of warm kitchens and alien spices. Solara grew quiet and observant. Jace glanced around. The director, an elderly human woman with kind eyes, stepped forward. She bowed slightly. "Captain Carver," she said, "thank you for delivering Solara safely. She will join the others now." Solara hesitated, glancing at Jace. He knelt and looked into her eyes. "I'll come back for you," he promised. She drew in a breath and stepped forward. Inside, the orphanage was a gentle maze of playrooms and sleeping quarters. Solara paused by a mural of alien children holding hands. She traced the painted faces with her finger. Jace stood behind her. "Will you be safe here?" she asked. "Yes," he said softly. "This place is protected." She nodded and continued onward. Jace followed until they reached her new room. A small bed, a desk, and a view of a tranquil garden. The door slid closed. Jace heard her breath steady. He placed a hand on the door. He felt a sudden resolve. The galaxy had thrown them together. She carried secrets he did not yet know. But he had a job: keep her safe. No medal or fanfare could compare to that duty. As Jace turned to leave, the director called him back. She handed him a simple communicator. "If you need anything," she said, "press this." Jace nodded. He slipped it into his pocket and walked out into the corridor. Passengers, staff, and children bustled around him. He felt a new purpose. The war had ended, but another mission had begun. Jace Carver, war hero, now stood as guardian. And somewhere inside the orphanage, Solara of the Marsh Moon waited, her secrets and courage ready to reshape their destinies. Jace Carver returned to his small quarters on the station and sank into a worn chair. The walls were bare metal, the air recycled. He stared at the communicator in his hand. He had promised Solara he would come back. Now he wondered how he could keep that promise when his days were consumed by reports and drills. Each morning, Jace woke before dawn. He walked the corridors, in his uniform, greeted by officers who asked about battle plans, not about orphan care. He joined briefings on supply routes and defense tactics. But his mind wandered to the orphanage, to Solara's quiet eyes and soft voice. Back on Earth, Solara woke in her new room and looked out at the garden below. She watched the leaves twist in the breeze. She missed the marsh moon's violet skies, but the green leaves reminded her of home. She dressed in simple clothes the orphanage provided and stepped into the hallway. Children of many worlds filled the halls. Some had tentacles, some had bright feathers. Solara paused to smile at a small child with silver wings. The child fluttered forward and offered Solara a small wooden bird. Solara took it and nodded. The gift was simple, but it felt like friendship. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Solara sat at a long table with other children. Jace was not there, but she felt his presence in the small communicator tucked in her robe. The director encouraged the children to share stories. Solara spoke softly about her home, her gentle voice carrying an ancient longing. The others listened with wide eyes. After breakfast, Solara joined a play session in the courtyard. Jace watched her through the viewport in his quarters. He had convinced himself to focus on his duties, but he could not ignore the tug in his chest. He slipped on civilian clothes and headed to the shuttle pad. The shuttle ride to Earth was routine for Jace, but not for Solara. She had never left the orphanage. When Jace arrived, he found her standing alone in the courtyard, holding the wooden bird. She looked up and smiled. "You came," she said. Jace nodded and offered his hand. She took it and led him to the garden. They walked among alien flowers and earth plants. She showed him how the leaves curled at dusk, mirroring the tides on her world. Jace listened and felt a calm he had not known since the war. "Is this how you find peace?" he asked. Solara nodded. "My home was quiet at dawn," she said. "I want to learn Earth's dawn." Jace thought about the horrors he had seen, the flashes of light in dark space, the screams on ruined worlds. He realized that peace was as precious as victory. He knelt beside a bloom and touched its petal. They spent the afternoon exploring the orphanage. Solara introduced Jace to her small group of friends, the winged child, a tall gentle one with blue skin, and a shy boy whose eyes glowed faintly. Jace found himself laughing at their jokes and stories. He had not felt joy like this in years. Later, in a quiet corner, Solara pulled out the wooden bird and pressed a small button hidden under its wing. It hummed with a soft light. Jace froze. The bird glowed in patterns he did not understand. "It was a gift," Solara said softly. "From my mother." Jace felt a ripple of energy in the air. He did not see sparks or hear alarms, but he sensed something powerful. Solara closed her hand around the bird and the glow faded. "It helps me remember," she said. "I keep my home with me." Jace nodded, relieved to see no danger. Yet he knew her secret would attract others who might want the powers she carried. He slipped the communicator into his pocket and said, "Let's get some fresh air." They stepped into the twilight garden. Lights glowed among the trees, but the air was cool and clear. Solara looked up at the sky. Jace followed her gaze. The stars were different from what he had known in space. They shone through Earth's atmosphere like distant jewels. "Do you miss it?" she asked. "Yes," he said, "but I think I might stay here a while." Solara smiled, and for a moment Jace saw the weight lift from her shoulders. They walked until the lights dimmed and the children were called in for dinner. That night Jace sat on a bench outside the orphanage. He watched Solara's window where a soft glow pulsed for a moment before fading. He knew it was her power, her secret linked to the bird. He wondered if she understood what it could do. He tapped the communicator. "I'm here," he whispered. A moment later, Solara opened the window and leaned out. "Good night, Captain," she said. "Good night, Solara," he replied. As she closed the window, Jace felt a new purpose. He would protect her, guide her, and learn from her. The war was over, but their journey was just beginning. Together they would face whatever came next. JSC woke early and dressed in his standard uniform. The station's corridors were quiet as he made his way to the shuttle pad. He had arranged to escort Solara to a nearby maintenance hangar for a tour. The director thought it would help her learn more about machinery and feel useful. When Jace arrived at the courtyard, Solara was already waiting by the shuttle. She wore her pale green robe draped over simple clothes. Her silver hair caught the morning light. She held the wooden bird gently in one hand. "Good morning, Captain," she said softly. "Good morning, Solara," Jace replied. He offered his arm and she took it. They boarded the shuttle together. The ride to the hangar was short, but Jace used the time to review the station map. He wanted to stay close to Solara, She watched the stars fade as they approached the station's outer rim. Inside the hangar, rows of old shuttles and freighters stood silent. Some had broken hull plates, others had faded paint. Salara's eyes widened. They look like art, she said. Jace smiled. They carried hope once. They walked along the rows. Solara ran her fingers along the metal side of a shuttle. Jace pointed out the control panel and engine ports. She listened carefully, absorbing every detail. As they reached the back of the hangar, Solara paused at a heavy hatch partly hidden by crates. She frowned. "What is behind that door?" she asked. "Storage," Jace said. "Old supplies." Solara's lips tightened. She stepped closer and touched the hatch. Jace noticed her pulse quicken. "Maybe we should not go there," he said. She let go and stepped back. Jace relaxed. But as they turned, he saw movement behind a stack of crates. A small drone rolled into view, its light blinking. "These are the war drones," he said quietly. "They have been offline for years." Eyes shone. "I have never seen them up close." Jace felt a chill. He moved between Solara and the drone. "They are not toys." She looked at him with calm curiosity. I know. He knelt to inspect the drone's hull. It bore old battle scars. He pressed a button and the drone's light stayed dark. Still offline, Solara studied the hatch again. Jace heard her whisper almost to herself, "What if I knew how to wake them?" He looked up in shock. "You would not." Her gaze met his. She did not deny it. Instead, she turned away. Jace rose and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You carry enough burden without waking these machines." Solara glanced at him, her eyes gentle. "I carry something heavier." Jace pressed the communicator in his pocket. He thought of calling for help, but he trusted Solara more than the unknown. "Let's go back," he said. Solara nodded. Together they walked toward the shuttle. The drone stayed silent behind them. During the flight back, Solara was quiet. Jace watched her through the reflection. In the window, she touched the wooden bird and closed her eyes. He realized the bird was her link to home and to a secret she would not share yet. When they landed, the director greeted them. "How was the tour?" she asked. "Informative," Jace said. "Solara behaved well." The director smiled and turned to Solara. "You were brave." Solara bowed her head. Jace felt pride swell in his chest. Later that night, Jace sat in his quarters and replayed the day's events. Solara's words echoed in his mind. What could she carry that was heavier than war drones? He tapped the communicator. "I'm here," he whispered. Moments later, Solara appeared at the window. The wooden bird glowed faintly in her hand. "Good night, Captain," she said. "Good night, Solara," he replied. As she closed the window, Jace stared at the drone's image in his mind. He knew she held a secret that could change everything. He vowed to learn it on his own terms and protect her from those who might misuse it. Their bond deepened in the quiet night, and Jace felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Jace Carver stood on the shuttle deck as alarms echoed through the hull. A distress beacon flashed on his console. The signal came from a forgotten moon at the edge of human space. Solara's eyes widened when she saw the map. She gripped Jace's arm. "Is it?" she asked, voice small. "We have to help," Jace said. He pressed a button, and the shuttle veered off course. Solara's pale hair brushed her shoulders as the engines roared. The shuttle descended into a thin atmosphere. Clouds of red dust swirled below. Jace guided them toward a broken city of stone towers and shattered walls. The moon had been a fortress. During the war, now it lay silent. When they landed, the air was cold and still. Jace and Solara stepped onto the cracked ground. He checked the communicator. No reply. The director's voice came over the speaker. "Be careful. We don't know what happened here." Solara nodded and followed Jace through the ruins. They passed high walls carved with old battle scenes. Stones lay scattered like fallen soldiers. Jace felt the weight of history in every step. They found the source of the distress call in an open plaza. A small device blinked orange. Jace knelt to inspect it. The signal was weak, but clear. "Help us." Solara leaned closer. Her eyes glowed faintly in the gloom. Jace watched her, uneasy. He had seen her power before, but never here. "Let me try," she said quietly. She touched the device. A pulse of light spread across the plaza stones. Shards of broken turret rose into the air and snapped together. Jace grabbed Solara's hand. "Stop," he shouted. The turret on the far side of the plaza activated. Its guns spun. Red lights blinked. Jace yanked Solara back behind a fallen column. "Your pulse woke them," he said, voice tense. Solara, single quotes, eyes filled with fear. She held the wooden bird tightly. "I did not mean to," she whispered. "I only wanted to help." Jace peered. Around the column, 3 turrets scanned the sky. They trained their barrels on the shuttle. Jace felt dread. If those weapons fired, the shuttle would be destroyed. He placed a hand on Solara's shoulder. "Focus on me," he said softly. Solara took a deep breath. Jace held her gaze. He spoke of home, of safety, of trust. She closed her eyes and pressed the bird to her chest. The glow faded, and the turrets powered down. Jace exhaled. He rose and offered his hand. Solara stood beside him, trembling. They approached the beacon. Jace opened its panel. Inside he found a recording from a small mining crew. Their shuttle had crashed here months ago. They had no way to call for help until the beacon activated itself. "They used this place as a storehouse," Solara said, pointing to a cluster of bunkers. "They hid supplies," Jace nodded. "We can recover them." He tapped the communicator. Soon, heavy crates rolled down the shuttle ramp. Jace and Solara loaded medical kits, food packs, and water canisters. Solara moved with care. Her secret, kept silent. As they worked, Jace watched her. He realized her power was linked to her emotion and focus. With his help, she could control it. He smiled at her, and she returned it with a small nod. When the last crate was aboard, Jace sealed the hatch. The shuttle lifted off, dust spiraling below. Solara pressed the bird against her heart. "Thank you," she said, voice steady. "You did well," Jace replied. They left the ruins behind. Jace set a course for the orphanage. Solara watched the moon fade into the distance. She had faced her power for the first time. Jse placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will learn together," he said. Solara nodded, hopeful. The war had ended, but their journey had grown more complex. Together they would face every challenge. Her secret and his duty guiding them toward a new dawn. Jace, Carver, and Solara arrived back at the orphanage just before dusk. The corridor lights glowed soft orange. Jace guided Solara inside and they entered the common room. Children laughed and shared stories of their day. Solara offered the wooden bird to an eager friend, and it hummed gently in its hands. Once the children left for dinner, Jace led Solara to a quiet alcove. He folded his arms and looked at her. "You were very brave today," he said. "But something worries me." Solara drew in a breath, her eyes lowered. "There is more you should know," she whispered. Jace sat beside her. He waited, silent. Solara's small hands trembled as she held the bird. "My people made a weapon during the war," she began. "It could decide battles in an instant. They encoded its activation code inside one of their own. That person was me." Jace felt his heart tighten. He stared at Solara's face. Her eyes were steady, but sadness shone in them. "You carry the key," he said slowly. "You mean you could start that weapon if someone forced you?" She nodded. "I tried to erase it. I fled so no one could use me." Jace ran a hand through his hair. "That is heavy for anyone, let alone a child." Solara closed her eyes. "I am not a child," she said gently. "I am my people's hope and regret." Jace reached out and took her hand. "I will protect you," he promised. "But we must find a way to remove that code." She looked at him, relief and fear mingled. "I do not know how," she admitted. He stood and offered his hand. "We will figure it out together," he said. Over the next days, Jace searched military archives and consulted engineers. Solara practiced controlling her pulse by focusing on calm thoughts. Each night, she and Jace sat under the garden lights, where she told him stories of the marsh moon. He listened and learned to read her moods. One evening, a messenger arrived with a data pad from the council. It contained blueprints for a secure chamber that could isolate the code. Jace studied the plans with Solara. "We can build this room here," he said. "It will keep your mind safe until we find a way to erase the code." Solara smiled for the first time in days. "Thank you," she said. Jace nodded. "You taught me that true peace is more than ending a war. It is helping each other heal." That night, Jace stood guard outside the workshop where they would build the chamber. Inside, Solara sketched diagrams on a holotable. As he watched her work, he felt a new respect for her. Strength. The galaxy was safe for now, and together, they would face the secret she carried on, build a future free from the shadows of war. Jace. Carver and Solara stood at the edge of the docking bay, watching engineers finish the final adjustments. On her secure chamber, the workshop smelled of fresh metal and warm circuitry. Solara's pale eyes reflected the glow of overhead lights as she traced her fingers over the chamber's console. Jace observed her with quiet pride. They had worked side by side for days, planning and building. The chamber was almost ready to isolate the code in her mind until they could safely remove it. For a moment, the world felt calm and hopeful. They left the workshop and walked toward the transport shuttle that would carry them back to the central station. Solara carried the wooden bird in one hand, its soft hum a comfort at her chest. Jace held the shuttle's manifest and double-checked the manifest code. The other passengers were station staff returning home after shifts. Solara greeted a few children she knew, offering smiles and nods. Jace paused to speak with the director, who handed him new orders and wished Solara well. They stepped aboard together, ready for the short flight. No one could predict the sudden flare of red lights that filled the cockpit as alarms blared. Jace's head snapped up. The pilot's voice crackled through the speakers. "We have unidentified ships approaching at high speed. Brace for impact." Solara gripped the armrest, knuckles white. Outside the viewport, silhouettes of small, agile vessels darted forward, pirate raiders drawn by rumors of valuable cargo. The shuttle's shields flickered under incoming fire. Jace sprang to his feet. "Secure yourself," he ordered gently, "and stay calm." Solara nodded, heart pounding in the silent space of her chest. The shuttle lurched as a blast rocked. The whole sparks flew from the console. Jace braced himself and reached for Solara's hand. "Listen to my voice," he said calmly. "You can help us." She swallowed hard, tears threatening in her eyes. She pressed the wooden bird to her chest and closed her eyes. A faint glow pulsed from the bird, sending a ripple of energy through the shuttle's frame. Outside, the pirate ships slowed, their weapons faltering. The abandoned war drones stored in the ship's hold responded to Solara's power. JACE dashed to the communications console. He keyed the override sequence and sent a code to the drones. "Unit Alpha, engage defense protocol," he commanded. His voice was steady, but his heart hammered. Solara opened her eyes and watched the sensor display as dozens of small drones powered up. Their engines emitted a soft whir. Jace guided her gaze. "Focus on their path. Think of calm water moving around rocks." Solara pictured the marsh moon's gentle tides, her breath slowing as the drones rose into the cargo bay. Through the viewport, they watched the drones launch into space. Jace tapped the tactical screen to track their flight patterns. The pirate ships reeled as the drones surrounded them, bursts of energy disabling their engines. One by one, the raiders fell silent. Solara's energy stabilized the drones' targeting systems, and they guided each unit away from civilian shuttles. Jace adjusted course to avoid debris, trusting Solara's power and the drones' coordination. Within moments, the threat passed, and the pirate ships fled into the dark void. As quiet returned, the shuttle drifted through space, systems humming softly. Solara sank into her seat, exhausted but relieved. Jace knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said, voice full of pride. "You saved us all." Tears slipped down Solara's cheeks, but she smiled. The wooden bird glowed once more, then dimmed. The other passengers emerged from secure areas and offered thanks. Engineers in the next bay would find drones still online, awaiting orders. Thanks to Solara's gift, when they arrived at the central station, staff crowded the ramp to greet them. Jace escorted Solara down the corridor where they paused beneath a balcony of cheering children. News of her power and bravery had spread. Solara's small frame was surrounded by friendly hands and warm smiles. Jace watched her, feeling a surge of respect and affection. Together they had turned a moment of danger into a triumph of unity. The chamber project would wait one more day, giving them time to celebrate this victory. That night, Jace and Solara sat on a platform overlooking the station's glittering cityscape. Lights from distant ships drifted like fireflies against the black sky. Solara leaned against Jace, her head resting on his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her, offering silent comfort. "We make a good team," he said softly. Solara nodded. "We do," she whispered. Jace thought of the code hidden in her mind, the secret he would protect at all costs. Their journey was far from over, but together they could face any danger and build a future beyond the shadows of war. JACE. Carver returned to the orphanage with Solara as the morning light filtered through tall windows. Children played in the courtyard, laughter echoing off the walls. Solara walked beside Jace, her hand tucked in his. She carried the wooden bird close to her heart. Jace felt a quiet pride as they passed. The journey had tested them both, but they had grown stronger. Now they faced their final challenge together. Inside the council chamber, high officials sat behind a long table of polished metal. Holographic displays floated above the surface, showing Solara's file and the blueprints for her secure chamber. Jace stood at the front, Solara at his side. The head counselor's voice filled the room. "We must decide Solara's fate. Her power could save worlds or destroy them." He paused, eyes on Solara. "What is your recommendation, Captain?" Jace took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "Solara has proven her strength, courage, and responsibility. She risked her life to save others. Her power is unique, but she controls it with care. I believe she deserves protection and guidance, not imprisonment. He glanced at Solara. Her shoulders straightened, the lines of worry softening on her face. The counselors murmured among themselves. One elder rose, her silver hair tied neatly behind her head. We know of her code's danger, she said. Yet we see she is more than a weapon. She is an individual who chose peace over power. Another counselor nodded. Our galaxy needs hope, not fear. Solara could be that hope. The room fell silent as they weighed the words. At last, the head counselor spoke. We will protect Solara of the Marsh Moon. We will build the secure chamber on station to guard her mind until her code can be safely removed. Captain Carver, you are appointed her guardian and teacher. Relief washed over Jace's face. Solara's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. Children and staff gathered outside the chamber doors. Cheering softly, Jace guided Solara down a hallway lined with flowering vines that glowed faintly under soft lights. They reached the workshop where engineers put finishing touches on the chamber. It was a simple room of pale metal and clear panels, a space of calm and security. Jace stepped inside with Solara. She sat on a padded seat as he activated the door sequence. The hatch closed with a gentle hiss. Inside, Solara touched the console that monitored her pulse and neural patterns. A soft hum signaled that the chamber was ready. Jace knelt beside her, his uniform's badges reflecting the light. I will check on you every hour, he promised. If you need anything, only press this button. He pressed a small device on the wall. A warm glow confirmed the link. Solara placed her hand over her heart and looked up at Jace. Thank you, she whispered, for believing in me. Jace smiled, his eyes sincere. You have taught me that true strength comes from trust and compassion. I will always protect you. He set down the wooden bird on a small shelf. Its gentle hum filled the room with comfort. As Jace left the chamber, he passed the director and engineers. Each offered a nod of respect. The director spoke quietly. You both made the right choice. Jace nodded in acknowledgement. He thought of the days ahead, lessons, training, and the careful work to erase the code, but he felt ready. Solara's courage had become his own. That evening, Solara sat alone in her new room beside a window overlooking the station's gardens. The stars shone bright beyond the glass. She held the wooden bird and let its hum soothe her. Memories of the Marsh Moon drifted through her mind. Violet skies, soft winds, and the peaceful dawn. She smiled, knowing she had found a new home among friends. Jace stood outside her window watching the stars too. He leaned against the wall and looked at the glowing garden below. He whispered into the communicator, "Good night, Solara." Moments later, her window slid open. She smiled and said softly, "Good night, Captain." They shared a moment of hope across the distance. As the station settled into quiet, Jace walked back to his quarters with a light step. The galaxy felt different now, safer, full of possibility. He knew challenges remained, but he trusted their bond. Together they would shape a future of peace. The war was over, but their greatest journey was just beginning. Asked ChatGPT.